So we get a better one. And I'm going to start your introduction now, Alfred.
Okay.
Here we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate that. Our speaker today knows what he is talking about when it comes to building new clubs. He builds new clubs in one meeting. He even started two clubs in different cities in India while on a business trip there, where he had a one-person launch team. A Toastmaster since last century, Alfred led District 52 in downtown Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley to distinguished status. But he is more proud of the fact that this was one of the first of 4 years in a row that the district was distinguished. He served 7 years on the board of directors of Toastmasters International. The highlight of the time was when Alfred served all Toastmasters worldwide as our international president. Today, he will take us step by step on how to charter a new club in 30 days. Please join me in welcoming distinguished Toastmaster, past international president, Alfred Herzing.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Angel. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. Great to have you with us. This is going to be an interactive session, and so I appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday to be with us. I know it's a beautiful day there, wherever you are, and I appreciate you doing this. So I'm going to share the presentation. And Angel, I'm not going to be able to see the chat while I'm doing this. So if you don't mind letting me know if any questions pop up in the chat, let me know,
I
okay?
got you. You're good.
All right. There we go. So I do want this to be interactive. And so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to interrupt. I am going to ask questions and I would like somebody, at least one, to respond. Okay. Is that fair? Okay, you need to
Yes.
unmute. Okay, we can do this. So if we look at the mission of the district, we build new clubs and support all clubs in achieving excellence. That's the mission of the district. And today we're just focusing on how to build a new club. If you're a district leader and you don't understand that building new clubs should be your number one focus as a district team, we need to have a separate conversation, but we don't have time for that today. In fact, if you don't know that this late in the Toastmasters year, it's pretty scary, but it's not too late. So we can have that conversation. Okay. So we'll have a separate conversation if you'd understand building new clubs should be the number one focus for the district. But why should you personally build a new club? Why do you think it would be a good idea for you personally to build a club? Please unmute and respond.
The experience and the joy of spreading Toastmasters to new people.
The joy of just spreading Toastmasters to new people. Exactly. Anybody else?
Yeah. So I don't have to speak all the time.
Well, that would be building up your existing club.
This is true.
But I think Marjorie nailed my reason.
Yes.
I am so grateful for Beverly Andrews because Beverly Andrews chartered the club, actually two clubs at the company that eventually I would come to work for. And because there was a company club that met at lunchtime at the office building I already worked at, when a colleague invited me to attend, visit a club, I was willing to do that. Now, if I hadn't done that, I may never have joined Toastmasters. And boy, my life would have been very, very negatively impacted by that because since joining Toastmasters, I earned 5 promotions. And I know in at least 2 of them, the skills I learned in Toastmasters helped me earn those promotions. So when you build a new club, you're really giving that gift of Toastmasters that you've received to have help others. I always laugh when I hear candidates say, I've gained so much from the organization, I want to give back by serving. That's like saying, well, somebody has to pay the income tax on winning the lottery, and I'm willing to take the hit. When you serve in Toastmasters, as I've learned, and I know many of you that have served at the district leadership have know, every position you get so much more out of it than you put into it. And so it's really not an issue of giving back, you're still getting. But when you build a new club, you truly are giving back and you're giving others that opportunity that may not otherwise have that chance. So here are the steps to charter a club. And we're going to go through those step by step. Okay. So this is just the overview at this point. We're just going to start with a lead. And once we have the lead, that's when the 30 days starts. Okay. I state that up front. And I also want to state right up front, when I talk about building a new club, I want us to build strong, sustainable clubs. I don't want any of these advanced clubs or these hokey clubs that disappear overnight. Okay. Now, there's always a chance with a corporate club, for instance, that if the corporation were to have a major downsizing, yeah, the club could disappear very quickly. But in general, we want to build strong, sustainable clubs. All right. Is everybody in agreement with that? All right. So we need a lead, but we're also going to need a sponsor and a mentor. We're going to make an initial contact with the lead. We're going to arrange a pre-meeting and we'll have that pre-meeting. We'll have them do publicity and then we're going to conduct a launch meeting. Now, I learned this term launch meeting from District 5 a number of years ago. A lot of people in Toastmasters called it a demonstration meeting. And they said, we want to be crystal clear what our purpose is with this meeting. We are not there to demonstrate Toastmasters. We are there to launch a new club. So they call it a launch meeting. I like that. You could call it something else if you want. But anyway, I want to make sure. And then finally, there's doing the paperwork. And Angel and other district leaders, you can verify to me, because I'm sure it's true, that there are plenty of experts in the districts on doing the paperwork. So you don't need to give that a moment's hesitation. Am I right?
I mean, yeah, come to me. I'll make your
All
paperwork
right.
easy. Just get the club there.
Yeah. So don't worry about that. All right. So let's talk about identifying a lead. Leads can come from all over the place. They can come from world headquarters. In fact, every year, every host Toastmasters International makes a big deal about the leads they give out that aren't followed up on. I've grown to become very skeptical of that because I've known of situations myself where I personally had taken advantage of leads and they somehow didn't get that registered. But leads can come from current members. They can come from your neighbors, coworkers, the whole plethora of positions, places they can do. You can assess existing clubs to identify opportunities for new clubs. If you were to get one of those ancient paper things that are known from the auto club, they're actually free if you remember, maps. And you drew a circle or put a pin on all the locations of the current clubs in an area, you might find there's a whole community that's not served. So that might identify it. You could also look at, let's say there's a breakfast club that meets at a Denny's. You could have a dinner club at that very same Denny's, and those two clubs would not compete with each other because the people available in the morning are not available in the evening, and vice versa. So you can look at time diversity as well as location diversity. You want to look at communities over 10,000 people, and I have the McDonald's symbol there because McDonald's has already done your homework. They build one store for every 10,000 people population. So if you count out the number of McDonald's in your area, your location, and when I say area, I'm not talking about Toastmasters area, I'm just talking about your locality, you can see what your opportunities are. And then you might also target corporations over 150 people. Ideally, we want white collar workers because they're more interested in progressing their careers with public speaking and leadership skills, which are what we teach in Toastmasters. But blue collars could also be interested as well. You can have community centers. If you have community centers there, many of them have meeting rooms that they offer for free or very low cost. Libraries also have meeting rooms. When I visited a club outside Toronto, Ontario, Canada, a few years ago, they met at the public library. Schools, institutions, like I said, corporations over 150 people, and communities over 10,000. A few years ago, District 52 had taken the time to compile a list of all the companies in the district, and it was over 12,000 companies. Now, granted, it was downtown Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley, but still, if you were to look at District 100 and all the cities there, I guarantee you probably have you probably have 10,000 clubs or companies within your district as well. District 100 does the Google Challenge, which is where you go to Google Maps and you look for businesses and our communities that could potentially hold a Toastmasters club. Now, while you're thinking about Google, I added this piece. Why not just Google companies and then enter the name of the city and see what comes up? Again, generating that list of prospect city companies that you might approach. And when we talk about getting a lead is not just the XYZ Corporation. It needs to be XYZ Corporation, the name of the top person at that location, and ideally a phone number so that we could contact them, or if that's not available, an email. All right. That's what constitutes a lead. A lead is not just the name of a company. It's much more than that. It's not just the name of a city, Pasadena. No, it has to be more than that. All right. So we won't do 5 minutes, but let's just have a quick brainstorm session on where you could possibly build a new club. All right. Marcia, go ahead.
Hello, Alfred. Good to see you.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Last year, we went to a Chamber of Commerce event. They were having, I think, 3 or 4 Chamber of Commerce events together. And even though when you look at the vendor list, there are like majority small businesses, we went there to try to, recruit people. And in the end, we ended up meeting the Chamber of Commerce CEO from 2 areas. And in one of them, La Habra Chamber of Commerce, we are able to get a club in 30 days. So Chambers of Commerce, I think, are a good lead, to go through. We had this experience before and it really did work out very well.
All right. Thank you, Marcia. And Marcia provided that during the minute you were thinking about providing a club lead. So who has some other ideas? Chamber of Commerce, a great idea. Where else might we build clubs?
Hi, Alfred. I have a comment.
Yes, Carol.
Yes, I do not have my DTM, which kind of disappoints me. And I've been thinking about starting a club on my own, just picking a topic, presentation that would interest me, and then grow it from there. So I think ourselves individually could start a club.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, you need a target audience. So what group are you going to try and go after to try to recruit to, because you need 20 members to build a club.
My thought was it would be friends, food, fiction. So people that are interested in books and food,
okay,
and we're all friendly, so that's easy.
All
but
right,
it would be
great.
something I'd have to grow probably on Instagram.
Yep. Kiritaj, go ahead. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
That's perfectly fine, Alfred, distinguished master. My point of view would be like, because I am a delivery manager in a data analytics company, right? So when we need to pitch something technically, we know it very well. Though when we need to mitigate it to the clients or have any RCA where we have to have a good tussle with those people, that is where it's important to negotiate properly. And hence, in my own organization, I am trying to have a Toastmasters club under District 100. That's one of my leads where people who want to grow professionally, maybe persuasive influence or maybe strategic leadership and these kind of paths, right? So that is where we can have an idea of growing a club from corporates, basically, where we
I
are
love
actually
it.
helping.
I love it. And in my presentation, I'm going to give you the ammunition you need to move forward with that step by step with the process. Okay, that's great. One last person, if you want to speak up, otherwise we'll move on. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to say that a lot of cities are just really well organized. So all of your major corporations are in one area. All of your commercial areas are in another area. Look at where the corporate and the businesses are, and you can just go and make arrangements to go there and communicate about Toastmasters.
Right. And actually, I just did this presentation the last week for Club 407, and somebody in that presentation had a really great idea. we've lost a lot of clubs across Toastmasters. And maybe you could revisit a former club that or company that had a club and see if they're ready to restart again. That might be another option. So, yeah, opportunities are all around us. I don't want you guys to think in any way your opportunities are limited. If you think, I mean, if you truly believe, like I do, the value of our program, we're truly giving people a gift by having this opportunity to be a member of Toastmasters. Like me, it could positively change their career in the most positive, amazing way. All right. So let's talk about the roles, okay? We need a club sponsor. What's the job of the club sponsor? Unmute, guys.
A contact person to get the club started. To,
Right.
to
Their
connect,
job
to
is get
connect.
their job is to get the club chartered. That's it. Their job is to get the club chartered. So they may or may not contact the new club lead. If the sponsor is somebody that's not real solid in Toastmasters, we don't want to put them in an uncomfortable spot. But the club growth director and her team has people that would be willing to make that initial contact. But your club sponsor would be serving as the TI contact for the launch meeting. They're going to receive all the RSVPs, okay? They're also going to recruit the launch team. You might have their home club could be a sponsoring club where you could provide that, or those members could come from the launch team within the district, okay? They're going to be part of conducting the launch meeting. Of course, they would have to be at that launch meeting, have the club elect the officers, submit all the paperwork, fees, and dues, and then plan a big celebration afterwards. I would invite the district director and make sure that, again, it's a huge celebration. Being a charter member is a once in a lifetime opportunity for a club. Once a club charters, nobody ever again can be a charter member. It reminds me of a funny story many years ago when I was going to Club Number One's 70th anniversary. One of my members from Yorberland Achievers says, "Oh, are you a charter member of that club too?" No, I was not around 70 years ago. All right, the other role is the new club mentor. What's the job of the new club mentor?
The new club mentor guides the complete team. It helps to establish a foundation of what Toastmasters is all about, like all about the executive leadership roles, because people are all new and they want to learn what it is. He connects
A
with whatever seniors we have in our area or division, and then guides the team to grow in Toastmasters community.
Perfect. That's perfect. Exactly. All these people are typically brand new to Toastmasters. There might be a few members that are current members in another club or were former members, but in general, you're dealing with new people. So somebody has to be the subject matter expert to explain Toastmasters and how a club should properly run. Now, Toastmasters International only requires 6 months for a club sponsor, but personally, whenever I ask somebody to be a club sponsor, or mentor, I ask them to stay with the club at minimum of 12 months. I feel like they need to go through at least one full cycle with the club. You also, as the club mentor, you're going to want to make sure that all the club officers understand their duties. You're going to familiarize all the officers and the members with the Toastmasters education program. And that program has a really interesting name. What is it called, guys?
Pathways.
Pathways. Those of us old timers, we're not talking about anything before Pathways. Pathways is our program. That's all we talk about. You're also going to introduce what I call the Toastmasters standards of excellence to the club. For instance, one of our standards of excellence is that all Toastmaster meetings start and end
On time.
on time. That's one of our standards. Our standards are that the agenda comes out how long before the meeting? An hour?
No, week.
That's ideally at least a week ahead of this meeting. All the assignments come out so people know what they're going to be doing. Evaluation should be positive in nature with at least 1 or 2 points for improvement. and my own personal standard for table topics, because in my clubs, we don't have time for everybody to participate. We ask the question first and then ask somebody to answer it. And that forces everybody in the room to go, what if he calls me? What if he calls me? What am I going to say? Because otherwise, if I say, okay, this first question goes to Marilyn, everybody's going to sit back and relax and go, okay, let's see what Marilyn comes up with. And halfway through her response, you're going to, oh, I know what I would say. So that's not a real table topic experience for everybody. You also want to recruit and retain members. One of the biggest mistakes new clubs make is they don't realize that even though you got your 20 charter, and we're going to talk about that next, you immediately have to start bringing in new members because attrition is normal. Just like our existing clubs, it's normal. It's normal with brand new clubs. And while I'm thinking about it, why 20? Toastmasters requires 20 members for a Toastmasters club. Any idea where they came up with that crazy number?
You want me to answer it?
No, let's wait for somebody else.
I'll try to answer it.
Okay.
Because of the multiple roles, you have every role by a different person, and then you have audience members to experience it other than the people doing the roles, and you get a variety of knowledge and insights and experience from the variety of people.
Right. Yep, exactly, Marjorie. We've determined that the average club, your actual club may vary, but you usually have about 13 to 15 roles to be filled in any Toastmasters club meeting. And not everybody can attend every meeting naturally. So you want to have a base of 20 so that you can have those roles, 13 to 15 roles, distributed amongst different people. Now, I'm sure all of you have been to a low membership club like I have, where one person stands up, they give the invocation and the pledge, they sit down, they're called on table topics, they speak, and they evaluate the other speaker. Can you relate to this? you have a you have a guest at that meeting and you ask them, do you want to join? They say, heck no, that's too much work. I can't do all of that. But with 20 members, you can spread out that workload. Also, when I was on the board, and I know this has not changed, when we asked our members what they want when they speak before their club, the number one thing they wanted was an audience. It's no fun to do all that work to prepare your speech and you show up and there's only other people there. All right. So that's where 20 comes from. All right. So going back to the sponsor and mentor, one person could be the sponsor and they can also be the new club mentor. Typically for myself, whenever I've started a new club, I have played both roles. Now you can have two sponsors, you can have two mentors. Personally, I don't like to have another mentor with me. I would allow that if I felt like I could not consistently attend club meetings because you need a mentor at every meeting. But the problem is when you have multiple people, you have multiple opinions. And it can be confusing for the club. And my joke is when they don't agree with me, then they're wrong. So sorry. So let's go back to the steps to charter. So once we have the lead, somebody on the district team is going to contact that lead. Again, it should be the top person in the organization. And ideally, we're going to get them on the phone. Here is my golden sentence. You might want to write this down, okay? I'd like to have a short meeting with you to discuss the benefits of having a Toastmasters program in your organization. I learned from Pat Johnson's book, we don't call it Toastmasters Club because that sounds social and doesn't really drive at the fact that we are an educational organization, okay? Keyword there is short. That's why I highlighted that, and benefits. Now, if you are try to have an hour meeting with these top executives, you're not going to get it, but they should be open to a short meeting. And again, we're going to talk about what's in it for them. What are the benefits for the group of having a Toastmasters program in their organization? What do you do if the person says, well, thanks for the call, but I'm not interested? Come on, guys. What do you do?
You
Take a guess.
ask them why they're not interested. I don't
Okay.
know. or what
You
they are. I don't know.
you could. My response is you just say, thank you very much for your time. You hang up and you say to yourself, that person is an idiot. And I'm very, very serious about this because we are talking about, look at those words. We're having a short meeting to discuss the benefits to them. And if they're not open to having a short meeting to see how their organization could benefit, they're not going to be they're not going to be supportive of that club, right? So why waste your time on an idiot that doesn't get it? Okay. So we just say, there's a big saying in sales. Those of you in sales, you know it. Then that word is next. And then you go back to the drawing board, come up with another lead, and then try again. Now, when they say not interested, you also need to remember not interested doesn't necessarily mean not interested forever. It could be just a timing issue. They're in the middle of a restructuring. You called them on a Monday and they're dealing with all the backlog of things that went wrong over the weekend. So, no, not a good time. So, maybe in a year or two, you try again. Oh, yeah. I didn't realize you were saying Toastmasters. I thought you were talking about naval masters or something. I got confused. I didn't know what you were talking about. Anyway, but just go to next. If they say no, that's okay. So once they say, yeah, that sounds interesting, we're gonna schedule a meeting with them within the next week. All right. And we just say, when is a good time for you? And see how much time they're willing to give you. If they're willing to give you 5 minutes, I can do it in 5 minutes. If you're gonna give you 15 minutes, take 15 minutes. I wouldn't even ask for anything more than 15 minutes. That's really not necessary. Okay. But when you meet with the person, you're going to get their buy-in. Okay. You're going to discuss the benefits of Toastmaster. What's in it for their organization? And I'm going to talk more about that on a following slide. We're going to set the date for a launch meeting no more than 2 weeks out. Why? Because first of all, there's never a perfect date. But if I were say to you, and today it's March 8th, I would say the launch meeting is going to be April 13th. All of you are going to go, oh, that's next month. I don't need to worry about that. I'm not even bothering to put it on my calendar. We'll deal with it next month. But with 2 weeks out or less, okay, that's coming right up. Let's put it on the calendar. We're also going to let that person know that we're going to require a minimum of 30 people at the launch meeting, or I'm not going to take the time of my launch team to bring them out to your facility or to your location. Why do I want 30 people at a launch meeting?
So you can get
Because
20.
So I can get,
20.
yeah, so I can get 20 to sign up. Does that make sense? If we
Yes.
have 30 people there, and assuming your launch team is somewhat competent, 20 people are going to want to join. And we want to launch in one meeting. That's the way I do it. All right. It doesn't work out that night in full disclosure, but one of the clubs I chartered, it was scheduled for June 20th. And June 20th turned out to be game 7 of the NBA playoffs. And even though the person I was organizing with, it was a community club, he had 35 RSVPs. We only had 15 people show up. We signed up 12 that night. So we didn't charter that night of the launch meeting, but before the very next meeting, he followed up with people that hadn't attended and they said, yeah, I want to join. And we had our 20. So it can be done. We're also going to get a quote of support for Toastmasters. People are busy in today's world. And so, especially in the corporate environment, if you're meeting with the top executive of the company, if we can get a supportive statement from them and share that with the employees, that's going to make them more open to checking it out. You also want to ask them what kind of dues the organization is going to pay. Some companies will pay for everything. They'll pay the charter fee, they'll pay the new member fee, they'll pay the dues. If the company wants to go that far, I always say that's wonderful, but we're still going to want each individual member employee to pay $1 a month club dues because I want them to have some skin in the game. All right. So we're going to discuss the benefits of Toastmasters. What's in it for them? When I've met with executives, these are the points I've talked about. I said, have you ever had a business meeting that didn't start or end on time? Who hasn't, right? So I knew the answer to that ahead of time. That's no lawyer's trick. Never ask questions you don't already have the answer to. So, I get responses like, yeah, threw the entire day off. It was very frustrating. Well, Toastmasters can help you with that. Have you ever had a speaker present to you and you could tell that they knew their material, but they just weren't getting to the point? They couldn't effectively communicate the information they had to share with you. Oh, yeah, it happens all the time. It's a waste of my time. Well, Toastmasters can help you with that. Would you be interested in a performance appraisal technique that reinforces the good things your great employees are doing and still gives them points for improvements? Toastmasters can provide you with that. We're also going to teach impromptu speaking skills. We don't mention table topics. We don't need to use that word in this meeting. We're going to teach impromptu speaking skills. And usually by this point, I already have them bought in onto it. If not, this is my closing statement. By having a Toastmasters program here in your organization, you're going to see improved communication skills as your employees talk with your management team, their peers, and most importantly, your customers. So usually, like I say, by the time I've gone through those few points, and how long did that take? That took a couple minutes. So that's why I said a 5-minute meeting is enough. And typically they'll hand you off to an HR person or somebody to work out the details of the launch meeting, which is fine. So we set the launch date no more than 2 weeks out. I explained why that is. We want a minimum of 30 people. And a few years ago during COVID, we were doing all these launch meetings online. And whenever we got an RSVP, my club growth director mentee had a really good idea. He sent the membership applications to everybody that RSVP'd so they would know in advance what they were going to be getting into. Well, interestingly enough, and this happened with 2 separate clubs, before they even conducted the launch meeting, he had 20 applications back for each club, all filled out and paid for. So before they did the launch meeting, they already knew they had the 20, which was awesome. So I just share that point to you. When you get the RSVPs, send them the application. Who knows? But at least they're going to know ahead of time what they're getting into. So like I said, you want a statement of support from this high person. And again, if it's not a company club, let's say it's the mayor of the city. You're trying to build a community club. Meet with the mayor of the city. See if you can get a statement of support. And by the way, over the years, I've found a lot of these executives, they know about Toastmasters. It's not an unknown quantity to them. They themselves, in many cases, have been Toastmaster members, or they know members in their family or employees that have gone through the program. So we asked them if they would be willing to provide a quote of statement of support for Toastmasters. And 95% of them say yes, or 90%. Whenever they hedge, I say, well, we'd be happy to draft that for you. And whenever I say that, I get 100% buy-in. Here is that draft statement, okay? This is what the quote I provide. The skills you learn in Toastmasters will help you in your personal life and your career here at XYZ Corporation. I encourage you to check it out. Signed, the big boss. Now, first of all, do you think that's a true statement? And is there anything misleading or false about that statement? Will the skills you learn in Toastmasters help you in your personal life and your career? Yeah. So
Yes.
this is a statement with integrity. Okay. This is not a sales pitch. This is truth to you. All right. So let's say, and you get them to use their email to broadcast this message to all of the employees. And so you get this email. The skills you learn will help you in your personal life and your career here. I encourage you to check it out. And then it says, the email says, there's going to be a launch meeting next Tuesday at noon in the California conference room. What kind of turnout are you going to think you're going to get? You're going to get a great turnout. Again, ask for RSVPs. You want to have at least 30. If the company's big enough, you're going to have it. All right.
It might be better if you offer coffee with the meeting.
Well, you can do that.
Right.
You can do that. All right. So then you ask them, like I said, what are the fees that they're going to pay? It's super important. I made this an extra bullet to make sure you collect not only the 6-month dues plus the prorated portion. So you may be collecting 10 months worth of dues at that first meeting. You want to know what that cost going in. You don't want to have them pay for 4 months and then just a couple months after they started, you're coming back after them for more money. I have seen more new clubs fold over this issue than I care to even want to discuss. Okay. There should be figure out what the club dues are. I recommend $1 a month to help cover for ballots, ribbons, whatever things that the club might have costs for. So you want to know that cost going in because at the launch meeting, when you close the sale, you need to say, no, understand how much it's going to be. So let's talk about the launch team. How many people do you need to do a launch team?
According to you, Alfred, you can do it with one person.
That is correct. I don't recommend that, but you can. You can do it with as little as one person. Now we're in the midst of contest season, and in my opinion, I always state when it's an opinion, contests are the biggest waste of energy for districts. I won't tell the story when I was an area governor and our district wasn't distinguished because all we did was focus on contests. But if you think about the number of people that are involved in holding a contest, with the judges, not even counting the contestants, the ballot counters, all the functionaries. And what's the outcome of a contest? You have one winner that hopefully everybody agrees with, and that's not always the case. All right. And it's just a one-time event. And when you hold a launch meeting, you only need 3 or 4 or 5 people. And what's the outcome? Hopefully, a club that's going to last for years and years, and hundreds of people are going to gain the benefits of Toastmasters. So this is just a great, great use of time. So who do we need on the launch team? We need somebody to be the Toastmaster. All right. You also need somebody to be the closer. Now, that doesn't have to be the Toastmaster. It doesn't have to be the new club sponsor, but somebody on the team there has to be willing to stand up in front of the group and say at the end, who's ready to join? Key question. And I won't go into the horror story I heard of another launch meeting that was done with 100 people in attendance and nobody asked that question and not a single person was signed up that day. So we don't want to do that. All right, we need a table topics master. By the way, in table topics, this is the one time I do think it's okay to let guests participate. Typically in my clubs, we don't do that, but I would start with an existing member of this team to answer the first table topic and then go to the audience and ask them. Now, Roberta Perry has an interesting approach with table topics. She asks people, she gives out 3x5 cards to everybody in the audience as they come in and asks them to write something interesting about them. And she collects those cards and then she'll call out, okay, who was the person that was a clown at Barnum and Bailey Circus? Tell us about that experience. And then that person stands up and they talk about that. So that's one way to do it. When I do it, again, I ask, how do you think you might benefit by being a Toastmaster? That's where I focus the table topics. The speaker. You're going to want a speaker to demonstrate a speech from the Toastmasters program. Who do you have? Do you have the district champion of the International Speech Contest? I can't hear you. I didn't hear an answer.
Yeah, if they're in the club, you can, but but not especially. It can be the just the speaker.
No, 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 no. You don't want the district champion because that person is so
Oh, yeah,
polished
right.
and so sharp,
Right.
they will not be able to relate to that person. So ideally, you want somebody that's given 2 or 3 speeches in the program. So they're into the program far enough that they're starting to get comfortable. And I like to give them the topic, how I'm already benefiting by being a member of Toastmasters. That's the topic I like to give them. So yeah, we don't want super polished person. Who do we ask to be the evaluator? Do we ask that person that's hypercritical and gives you a list of 15 things you did wrong in your speech? No, no, we want somebody that's positive tone, that reinforces the good things that the speaker did, but still does offer 1 or 2 things that the speaker can do for improvement. You're going to need a timer. And again, you can have double ups here. You know, your person that's the speaker could also be the timer when they're not speaking and things like that. So it doesn't take that many people. You don't need a lot of the other ancillary roles. You don't need a general evaluator, grammarian, joke master, whatever roles you all have in your club. You don't need them. And like I said earlier, the sponsoring club can help provide the members of your launch team. Now, this is an abbreviated Toastmasters meeting. Your launch meeting should take no more than 30 minutes because you want time to answer questions. You want time after you said that question, who wants to join, to collect the applications and collect the payments. All right. Now, another tip I learned from Roberta is she likes to have shills in the audience. So when she asks who's ready to join, she already has people in the audience that already have decided they want to join. And they're like, I want to, I want to, I want. And people see that. It's like, oh my gosh, wow, I better get on this. And you need to share with them. Once we have 20 people, this club is chartered, and nobody ever again in the history of the club will have a chance to be a charter member. So this is the time to do it. Back in the day, it was a little harder when you couldn't use a credit card, but today you can. Who doesn't have their credit card information with them? And so it's very easy to sign people up that day. Now, one of the great things about being a charter member is you get to help establish the the culture of that club, starting with the club name. Now, if it's a company club and the company executive has already dictated that, that's fine. But the club in general is going to discuss that. What's the club name? When is the meeting going to be? What time? Where? How often are we going to meet? Are we going to meet weekly? Or are we going to meet bi-weekly? For any regular Toastmasters club, not an advanced club, personally, I think they must meet at least bi-weekly. I do not agree with monthly meetings for new members. It's just too slow. Help them elect the officers if they haven't been elected. And I'm re-hitting on the dues. Make sure you collect the prorated dues amounts. I cannot overemphasize how important that is. All right. Any questions? I know I'm throwing a lot at you. Let me ask you a question. Is this making sense? Yes, Rashetta.
Yes, I do have a question regarding the dues, the starting dues. So if a club starts in, say, April of next month in April, we would collect the prorated amount from April to June through June, and then we would start with the new dues in July.
Okay, actually, that's a great point. Dues for Toastmasters are collected in April and
Oh,
October. Okay.
okay,
So if you're chartering the club in April, you actually hit the bullseye and you don't have any prorated amounts to collect.
okay,
But if it were to charter this month, we'd have just one additional month that we'd want to collect. You wouldn't want to collect a 1 month and then come back right away and ask for more because Toastmasters always requires that a full amount when they do that. So if you only collected the 6 month, you're going to immediately be in trouble with the next period.
okay.
Great, great question. Thank you.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else have questions? Yes, Angel.
I would just add in, if they're willing, you can collect a year at a time as well. So if you're chartering
Hmm.
in April and they are like, yeah, I'm in and I'm pay for a year, it's much better for them to do it because a lot of people are like, I get this and I can put it on my calendar and I can just pay it for the year and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, and it's psychological. That's why I like doing the prorated amount. And I do this with brand new members when they join the club. If when they first join the club, they pay that new member fee plus the 6 month dues plus the additional prorated amount plus club dues, they may be writing a check for $120. So the next time the renewal comes up after 6 months, when that next time comes, Rashetta, April and October. um, then you're just going to say, well, you owe $60 international dues plus $12 or $6 club dues. So your total is 66. What are they going to think? Because in their mind, what number were they thinking it's going to be?
60.
60, yeah.
No, they
120.
paid 150 when
Oh,
they first joined.
Oh,
So
no.
when
wow.
it comes up for renewal, they're thinking, oh, we got another 150 coming up. And you say, hey, it's only $66. You go, wow, this is a great deal. So it's all psychological. It helps them. But if you charge them initially, let's say $80, and then you come back 2 months later, we need another 66, they're going to go, wait a minute. I just paid you this money, and it creates a bad feeling. All right. So like I said, I do the same thing with new members. Marilyn, question.
I had a question because you're talking about the club dues, and it sounded like one point it was going to go to Toastmasters. Club dues only go to the club, right?
What the club collects it. So
Collects
that
it.
does get to be a problem when they're paying by credit card because the credit card of the total is going to Toastmasters. So you're going to have to separately collect that for the club. Good point. That's a very good point because that doesn't go to Toastmasters. So, yep, that's
Oh.
that's where Zelle or other creative methods come into play. So again, as we said earlier, district has experts on doing the paperwork. Please do not let paperwork be the issue, okay? If you get to that point, boy, you are home free. We'll help you get that done. Here are some resources that are available to you. And by the way, Angel has this presentation, and just reach out to Angel. If anybody would like a copy of it, we'll be happy to share it. This is not top secret information. I'm glad this is being recorded so that others that couldn't attend live could at least have a chance to see it. But there are tools that are available to you. And so it really is 30 days to launch. Let me go through the timeline. It starts with the lead, all right? Once we have the lead, and we talked about ways to generate that lead. Once you have that lead, that's when the clock starts. You turn in that lead to the district, the clock is starting. Within that first week, we're going to make contact with that key contact for the lead. We're going to schedule that initial meeting, the pre-meeting, the second week, the next week. And we said, how long does it take before we do the launch meeting?
Less than 2 weeks.
Less than 2 weeks after that. So that's why we have the launch meeting no later than week 4. There's your 30 days. And so this is very doable. This is very doable. Anybody question that this is doable with this strategy? All right. I mean, things don't always go according to plan. Let's say you don't get the 30. Okay, we're not going to do the launch meeting. And so you ask them, well, how long is it going to take you to get to 30? And they say, we need another week. Okay, fine. If they need more than another week, personally, I would say, well, unfortunately, it doesn't look like you have enough interested people that we'll be able to charter a club here. And we're just going to pass. And anybody that was interested, here's a list of clubs nearby. You can have them join those existing clubs. Because here's the point. I said this earlier in the presentation. We want to build strong, sustainable clubs. If we can't find 20 excited people when this idea is fresh and new, we're just creating problems down the road. And I hear these horror stories of clubs that take 6, 9, a year to charter. And yes, there's the exception where that club ends up being strong, but in general, those clubs end up folding because there just wasn't enough sustainable energy. Jane, you have a question or comment, please.
Yeah, it looks to me, according to this timeline, that we should probably, are you suggesting that we should schedule the date for our launch meeting before finding our guests, or do we find our guests first and then start a launch, scheduled launch
No.
meeting?
Okay, great question. We are going to schedule the launch meeting in that pre-meeting with the executive. We're going to set the date and time and location for that launch meeting so that when you send out the invitations, you do the publicity, you're saying, we're having the launch meeting on March 15th at the California conference room at noon. Please RSVP to Rich and Kohlenberger at this email address. And that's where we're going to collect the emails. So yes, you're going to want the date ahead of time. And if you don't get enough, then you'll contact those that had RSVP'd and said, again, either there's a delay or unfortunately there wasn't enough interest. So we're not going to be having the launch meeting. Yes, Marjorie.
The company, the contact company, person at the company, they send out the emails to their employees giving their support quote
Yep.
and the date and time location. But the RSVP can go to the sponsor or the Toastmaster helping to put it together.
Exactly. That's exactly right, Marjorie. The RSVP comes back to the new club sponsor because that person, and it could be, I mean, depending on the company, a company like say, hey, we want to collect those names and then we'll share them with you once we've collected it. That's fine if they choose to do that. But we want to make their work easy. And so the possibility would be just RSVP directly to the new club sponsor. But that's exactly right. The company is going to do that publicity. And if it's a community club, now you're going to have to be more creative. You're going to have to use social media, bulletin boards and public libraries and supermarkets, wherever you can get the word out. But again, you need the RSVPs because you want to know in advance. These, everybody's time is precious. You guys are taking an hour of your precious Saturday to be here, and I so appreciate you for that. We don't want to waste the time of our launch team members to go out to travel to a location only to have not enough people there. And like I said, Murphy's Law is, always active, and you may have 21 RSVPs and maybe 21 don't show up. All right, fine, but we're going to get the base of the club established and then make sure that the club does get to 20 within one or two more meetings. If not, I'm sorry, I'm ready to pull the plug. Marilyn, question.
Yeah, you get some great ideas here. Thank you. Is there a month? I know there's certain times of year like Christmas time, blah, 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 it's even busy for people. But is there a certain time of year that's actually better for a lunch meeting? I don't know.
There's a great Chinese proverb. It says the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today.
Right.
So you're
Yeah.
right that there definitely is the holiday doldrums, but we're past that.
Right.
We're past that. And from a Toastmasters year perspective, guys, we're right against the wire. Just so you know, a little bit of Toastmasters math. If we can charter a club by the beginning of the April, when the next dues are due, we're going to get 2 member payments for each club member, charter member, their charter fee, and then their April renewal.
Mhm.
After we charter a club after that, we're only going to get the charter fee. So it's only going to help one payment towards the distinguished district goals for the district. So if at all possible, and I know already it's the 8th, so you would have to be compressing that 30-day schedule, even if you started tomorrow, but it's still doable. I mean, what if we got the lead? We got the lead tomorrow, the 9th. And that during that week, we scheduled the launch meeting and we actually had the pre-meeting, we had that week. By next Friday, we've already had that launch meeting, and when we scheduled the launch meeting a week and a half later, we are going to be chartering that club before April 1st. So, I mean, it's doable. It can be compressed, but I don't want anybody to go through unnatural acts, as we used to say in my former company. Yeah, it has to be reasonable. It has to flow. You can't be pushing it too much. Do you guys appreciate the questions and answers? Any other questions? Or questions and comments? Hopefully I'm providing the answers.
Yeah.
Yes, Gene.
So I have a club lead, and the club lead, she said she doesn't want to be an officer in the club, but she still wants to start the club.
That's fine.
Yeah, and I believe that's been a bottleneck because she doesn't seem to, because she's not going to be an officer in the club. She is. All right, let me start from the top. We started another club in the same building, and I told her that. I think that was a mistake because now I think she is trying to get her company to reach out to the other company and form a joint club when there could have been two clubs. And I'm trying to figure out how to encourage her to start her own club instead of latching on to the other one we just started.
Okay, a great situation, Gene. You have to make sure that there's enough people to support two separate clubs. And assuming there is, And it's even better if they're a competitor, but they're probably not. If he's like, hey, your competition already started a club. You guys might want to get on board. But the point is, let's assume they have enough people to support a club, Gene. Just say, look, you don't need to be an officer. We're going to ask for volunteers and we're going to train those people so they know what to do. And being a leader in the Toastmasters Club is going to be developing leadership skills that's going to help these people in their professional lives. So it's something they're definitely going to find value. It's not a prerequisite that you personally have to be an officer. If you don't want to, that is perfectly fine. But we still want to work with you to get at least 30 people to a launch meeting so we can start a company club for you. That is your company's focus, that it's not distracted by other issues and other things. By the way, I had an executive meeting with an executive in downtown San Francisco, and when he heard about Toastmasters, he got so excited. He said, you know what's great about this? I want a club here because by you bringing these people together in a one club, we're going to have people that wouldn't normally talk to each other having some great cross communication. That's going to be fantastic. Relationships are going to get built between departments that wouldn't otherwise happen. This is going to be so amazing for the company. So Gene, go get it. Go get her. Just say you don't have to be a club officer. We're going to recruit out of the 20 the people that we need.
All right, thank you.
So again, don't complicate this. People make a mountain out of a molehill. It's not that complicated. I went through the steps with you. It's very straightforward. First, you need a lead, but the key is to take action. Without that lead, without somebody making that initial call, we don't have anything to work with. Now, again, help is available at any step along this process if you get stuck. We have help within the district. So feel free to reach out to the club growth director, to Angel, the district director, any of the top three, and they'll be more than happy to help you because those folks do understand that building new clubs is the #1 focus for the district. And with that, I'm through with my presentation. If anybody has any final questions,